All right, Bible and Daily Lifers, here we are. We're going through the New Testament in a year, and we're starting to move lightning speed. We're moving pretty fast. We're going through Paul's prison epistles. That means he wrote these when he was in prison. He's got a lot of time to think. He's pretty careful about the way that he's writing these letters. And he's writing them just because he's thinking about these people, thinking about the people in Philippi and what happened there when the church was established and all the relationships that he made there, and the first church really in Europe where the door opens up for European mission. And now in Europe got evangelized. Amazing. Paul went in there and just a little tiny start, and man, the thing has exploded over the last 2,000 years. So here we are. We're picking up in chapter 2. Therefore, if you have any encouragement from me being united with Christ, if you have any comfort from his love, if you have any common sharing in the Spirit, if you have any tenderness and compassion, then make my joy complete by being like-minded, having the same love, being in one spirit and of one mind. Now, he has a reason for saying this, because as he's in prison, and we said that he's probably under house arrest, and in Rome, your friends could come and they could bring you food, they could bring you things that you needed, and if you had a lot of food, you could share it with the other prisoners there. So as people are coming and visiting Paul's hearing that the church in Philippi, there's like some division going on. There's some disagreement going on. There's some arguing going on. There's some, and it's always an ugly thing when there's fighting and division going on in the church. It's an awful thing, and it affects everybody, and everybody knows it shouldn't be true, and everybody knows it shouldn't be so, and so we all feel it. We all feel it. And so he's saying, if Jesus has done anything for you, then be at peace with one another. Would you please don't do anything out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Well, everything we do is probably out of selfish ambition and vain conceit. That's what we're supposed to be moving away from. That's the old life. That's the old flesh. That's the old life that's supposed to be dead and covered with Christ. And yet this is how we live. But rather, in humility, value others above yourself. Wow, this is a hard one. Putting others above me, and always considering others above me. Man, it starts with just being polite and keeping your mouth shut, and then considering, hey, you're better than me. I'll go along with it. Whatever. Why do I need to be on top? Why do I need to be the one? Not looking to your own interests, but to the interests of others. So don't always just be thinking about how does something affect me? Oh, it bothers me. What's it do to others? In your relationships with one another, have the same mindset that Christ had. Now, we're talking about interpersonal relationships, and in this context, interpersonal relationships in the church. Who, being in the very nature God, didn't consider equality with God something to be used to his own advantage. Rather, he made himself nothing. He became a person. God became a person, taking the very nature of a servant, born into a poor family, being made in human likeness, the incarnation, God becoming flesh. Wow, in our likeness. And being found in appearance as a man, he humbled himself by becoming obedient to death, even the death on a cross. Wow, Jesus humbles himself. Imagine this God, the creator, the maker of heaven and earth, coming and living among us and coming here to die for us, humbling himself, making himself nothing, being born to a poor family, being born among the animals. Be like Jesus. Therefore, God exalted him to the highest place and gave him the name that's above every name, that of the name of Jesus Christ, every knee should bow in heaven and on earth and under the earth, and every tongue acknowledge that Jesus Christ is Lord, to the glory of the Father. Now they call this the kenosis, where Jesus empties himself of everything that he has, and he comes and he becomes a human being. And so we can take the example from Jesus. He is our example, and he's exalted. He's exalted forever and ever and ever. God will take care of you. You can't humble yourself enough that God's not going to exalt you, that God's not going to take care of you. It's just trust in God. And now, here's what we need to do. Therefore, my dear friends, because of this, as you've always obeyed, not only in my presence, but now more so in my absence, And when I was teaching there, you were doing the things that we were teaching. You were putting them into practice. You were obeying him. Continue to work out your salvation with fear and trembling, for it's God who works in you to will and to act in order to fulfill his good purpose. Now, this doesn't say that you have to work for salvation. It's saying that there's an outworking of your salvation. The salvation that has happened to us, let's work it out. And let's work it out in fear and trembling. Let's not be flippant about this thing, but let's learn to represent Jesus. Let's learn to be like Jesus. Let's learn to submit our lives to God. Let's learn to be humble. Do everything without grumbling or arguing. Wow. Do everything without grumbling or arguing. Everything. You shouldn't be grumbling. You shouldn't be arguing. Stop it. So that you may become blameless and pure, children of God without fault, in a warped and crooked generation. Well, we shouldn't be like the world around us, always arguing, always fighting about everything, always grumbling, always complaining, always, everything around us, just, that's what people do all day long. Stand in the grocery store line and people are grumbling and arguing. Well, now with the electronic checkouts, you don't get to stand in line with people as often as you used to. But even those lines are getting long, so you get to stand in line and hear people grumble. It is a warped and crooked generation. Then you'll shine among them like stars in the sky as you hold firmly to the word of life. Holding firm, the word of life, is that the Bible or is that Jesus? That's Jesus, but that's the Bible. Words of life, the word of life and the words of life. And then I'll be able to boast on that day of Christ that I did not run or labor in vain. But even as I'm being poured out like a drink offering on the sacrifice and service coming from your faith, I'm glad to rejoice with you. Being poured out as a drink offering. Paul's pretty convinced that he's going to die in prison, that they're not going to just let him go. So at least that's what he thinks. That's what he feels at this point. And he said, so you too should be glad and rejoice with me. Now, some personal stuff. I hope in the Lord to send Timothy to you soon, so that I also might be cheered when I receive good news about you. So Timothy, he's been there in Rome with Paul, visiting Paul, and, he's going out to some of these other churches and comes back and tells Paul what's going on. And Paul said he's going to come over there and teach you guys and spend time with you, pray for you, work with you. And, when he comes back, I'm sure he's going to bring back a good report. Kind of telling the people, hey, get it together so Timothy can come back and say, hey, those guys worked it out. He said, I don't have anyone else like him who will show genuine concern for your welfare. That's a pretty heavy scripture, right? That there's nobody like Timothy. There's nobody as faithful as him. There's nobody like him. I have people like that in my life where I look at them and I go, there's just nobody like them. They're just amazing. It can't be replaced. But that Timothy's proved himself, because as a son with his father, he served with me in the work of the gospel. And I hope, therefore, to send him soon so you can see how things are going with me. And I'm confident in the Lord that I myself will come soon. So the two things, on the one hand, he feels like that, this is the end, his life is being poured out and it's sort of maybe the end of the journey for him. And then on the other hand, he feels like, maybe he's going to come see them soon. So which one is it? He doesn't know, but it doesn't look good for him in jail. And at the same time, he's hopeful, like, hey, who knows what the Lord's going to do. But I think it necessary to send back to you Epaphroditus, my brother, co-worker, and fellow soldier, who also is your messenger, whom you sent to take care of my needs. Again, prisoners, they could take care of them. They could bring them money. They could bring them food. They could bring them all kinds of stuff. And Epaphroditus came from the Philippi, and now Paul said, I'm going to send him back. He's a faithful guy, man. Thanks for sending him. For he longs for all of you and is distressed because you heard he was ill. Indeed, he was ill, and he almost died. But God had mercy on him, and not only on him, but also on me, to spare me sorrow upon sorrow. I couldn't have dealt with it, if he came here and to see me and he dies on the way. Therefore, I'm all the more eager to send him so that you can see him again and may be glad, and I might have less anxiety. So the Apostle Paul has, he's, when he's telling everybody, have peace with God, and he's got a little anxiety himself about Epaphroditus. And he said, so then welcome him in the Lord with great joy and honor people like him, because he almost died for the work of Christ. He risked his life to make up the help that you yourselves could not give. This guy is a good guy, man. This guy risked his life to come and to bring this stuff to Paul and to bring him encouragement, maybe bring him some money, bring him some stuff. And Paul's grateful. He's grateful for the help that he's received from the Philippians. And this is what we do for missionaries. This is what we do for ministers. This is what we do for leaders. So let's keep doing more. Let's keep doing more. Let's be generous. Let's help people. Let's make the gospel go around the world and bring Jesus back. Let's get it. Let's get this thing out everywhere and bring Jesus back. Hey, bless you guys. Love you.